secure history. They were being managed long term. People had owned them for quite a while. And the properties that got me into trouble, I didn't really know anything about them. After I bought one in Phoenix, I found out that it was a house that was like a housing center for illegal aliens. You know, it didn't have a good reputation in the neighborhood. And sometimes those things happen. And for me, I think it's really important to do a historical analysis on a property before you buy it.
When you purchased from an investor, did you ever keep their past management company, or did you go out and seek somebody different?
Well, most of the investors managed it themselves, so
okay.
I would have to get my own manager to take it over. But I just noticed that when the property had a good history, most likely you were going to have a really good future with that property. And I've always gone through that, and I really stress, you know, doing research before you buy a property. I know that there's a lot of investors that go out there and buy sight unseen. I'm not one of them.
Have you, with the property that had kind of a bad stigma?
Yes.
I know that Dave Lindahl recommends that you change the name of the complex if it's an apartment building. Did you try that strategy?
I tried a couple of different things. For example, I completely painted the property. It was like an ugly gray color. I painted it a beautiful yellow. I did a lot of landscaping to the property. However, it still had that stigma in the neighborhood. So number one, I always had a problem renting the property. I noticed that tenants would come and go a lot faster in that property than the other properties. Also, the people in the neighborhood, they weren't really friendly towards my property. They weren't keeping an eye out on it, or maybe they was getting graffiti too much. I just, you know, noticed that it had like a bad rap in the area.
Nothing that you could really change to help that.
Exactly. That's why I think it's important to know the history of a property before you buy it. You want to know if it had issues in the neighborhood. Was it a drug center for the, you know, was it like infested with gang members? If they lost the property, why did they lose the property? Did they lose the property because they had personal issues, or did they lose the property because the property is so bad that even if the best property manager in the world takes it over, it's still not going to make a difference? And unfortunately, you know, there's some properties that for some reason or another they get a bad rap, and it's hard to turn that property around. It can be done, but it's going to take money. Like, for example, with that property, I spent a lot of money trying to turn that property around. Whereas if I would have done a little bit more research, maybe I would have bought a different 4-unit property that had been taken care of much better by the previous owners. So anyway, I stress always do your due diligence. Now let's talk a little bit about out-of-state investing, because I love out-of-state investing. I do own properties out-of-state. As I mentioned, I've been in 5 states. I've invested in, of course, California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and Louisiana, and I still have properties out-of-state. And I've been successful at it. I know that there's a lot of people that have horror stories about out-of-state investing. I'm not one of them. I've done well out-of-state, and the assets that you can buy outside of California are mind-boggling. For example, here in my backyard where I live, if I wanted to buy a typical 4-unit property in Culver City, I'm looking at about $950,000. And the rental income that is going to be generated may be $5,000 tops, you know. So the numbers just don't add up. Whereas a property that I purchased in Baton Rouge, it's a beautiful 2-story fourplex, 4 units, townhouse style. I mean, the property's gorgeous. The units are great. And I paid $230,000. It's unbelievable. Also in Texas, I bought another 4-unit property, 2-bedroom, 2-bath units. Each unit is about 1,100 square feet. This one is near McAllen, and I paid $175,000 for it.
Do you physically go out to the properties before you purchase them to check
Yes.
things out?
I always do. And as I said, I know a lot of investors do by sight unseen. I'm not one of them. I can't do it. And for me, part of the fun of being an investor is the thrill of the chase of getting a great property. And it floors me when some investors tell me, oh, I'm too busy. I can't go out to, Indiana or Texas or Ohio to see the property I'm buying. And I just don't understand that because, number one, it's a tax-deductible vacation. Number two, go and, see the city. See if it's right for you. I believe that when you invest in an area, you're almost buying a part of that city. I mean, you are. You're buying a part of that city. You're buying a part of that neighborhood, that community. You want to make sure you want to be vested in that area. And I want to see what's around my property. Is there a liquor store, across the street? Is there a school nearby? I mean, I know that you can do a lot on Google Earth, and I use Google Earth a lot, but there's nothing quite like going to see the property yourself, touching it, and shaking your property manager's hand. Why would you not want to do face-to-face business with the person that's going to be responsible for one of your biggest investments? I think it's crucial, and I think to not do it is a great disservice to yourself as an investor.
After you've got the property and you've got the property manager, how often do you go back out and see the properties?
Well, in the beginning I started, I was going a lot more frequently because, I was kind of like, okay, I want to make sure they're taking care of it, blah, blah, blah. So I would go maybe twice a year. Now I haven't gone back to Louisiana to see my property in about a year and a half. I'm planning another trip because I love going, and I love going out to see my properties and seeing my property managers, and I take them out to lunch. But I would recommend going, if you can, once a year, just to see how things are going, just to see the property, do a walkthrough, let your property manager know that you're serious about this. This is your livelihood. You're doing this for passive income. You're in it for the long term, and you want to make sure that things are going well.
When you do make those trips out there, do you do surprise trips, or do you notify your property manager in advance?
Great question, because a lot of my friends will visit unannounced. They'll just show up, and they'll call the property manager and say, come and pick me up at the airport. I don't do that. I don't like it when people visit me at my home or my office unannounced, and I give that courtesy back to them. A lot of my friends will go unannounced and just drop in on them. I don't do that. I do let them know in advance that I'm coming. I just think it's it's common courtesy, but I can understand why some people go unannounced. Especially if you've had problems with the management, if you're seeing a lot of maintenance orders, or if you have a gut feeling, something that tells you, wait, there's something not right, I can understand why someone would want to go unannounced. But like I said, I've had great experiences as an out-of-state investor. I've never had an issue where I feel that I'm being taken advantage of. So therefore, I'm more trustworthy, and I like to give them notice and let them know that I am arriving. Yes.
Are investments still your main focus, are rentals still your main focus in investing, or have you changed because of the economy?
Great question. Well, right now I am still a landlord, and we have 15 rental units that I manage. So I will always be a landlord. I don't think I'll ever not own rental property, because I I've seen the benefits, not only in terms of cash flow, but also with my tax